Cage Nation. Welcome to the Cage Nation. Welcome to the Cage Nation. No one can drop us, no one can stop us. We are the warriors, no one can top us, no one can rock us. We are the warriors, no one can drop us, no one can stop us. We are the warriors, no one can top us, no one can rock us. We are the warriors.
Wow.
That is a knockout, my friend.
That, my friends, is a knockout.
That,
give us a little background on
well,
that.
it's the martial art capoeira, which is a traditional martial art, I guess, by definition. There was a time in Brazil's history where the Brazilian citizens could not study martial arts or train to defend themselves, so they kind of had to hide it as a dance, and that's where you get those kind of fluid motions. Capoeira was explained very, very nicely in the 90s movie called Only the Strong, starring Mark Damascus. And then, of course, if you've ever seen Never Back Down, and I apologize if you have, it's that kind of tumbling aerial martial arts, and that is capoeira. But that was a very, very practical application of the martial art, and that, my friend there, got the W. And that's what matters.
Welcome to this another edition of Cage Nation TV. We were off last week. For a very, very well, we had a good reason. If we're going to be off the air for a week, it's always going to be a good reason.
Put it out there. My mom got really sick, and she had to have surgery to remove a cancerous kidney from her, and there were complications to the surgery. So those sort of things have kind of prompted our series of episodes in October, to which we're titling The Pink Out. Wearing pink, and all of our graphics are changing pink to show the support that cancer is a truly ugly, terrible disease that just destroys lives, and the very word of it just is, there's no need for it left in our vocabulary anymore. And I think with the right support, the right show of support to the folks who are battling and surviving, and the fact that we as a people can come together, we can knock out cancer just like we did with polio, just like we did with the Black Plague, just like it did with smallpox.
We can make cancer tap out. All it takes is, well, it takes you guys to help. And of course, October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and of course, Komen for the Cure is a wonderful organization that is helping in the fight against breast cancer. And of course, there's lots of organizations. Make a donation to your American Cancer Society. Make a donation to Komen for the Cure. Just do your part this month. Heck, do your part every month to help out those. And props to all the survivors, the cancer survivors out there. You guys are the true superstars. You guys are stronger. You guys are stronger than any MMA fighter that we've ever known.
There was a day and time when the word cancer was a death sentence, and that is no longer the case. We are truly inspired by the strength and resilience that all of our cancer survivors out there are putting out there. Mom's doing great. I know you guys were asking that. Thank you very much, and I really appreciate you all giving me the time to go be supportive, the good son that I needed to be.
Like we had any choice. It's your apartment. We're filming.
Well, you know, but I had a lot of emotional support. People asking me, "Is everything okay?" and everything.
Sure.
And that, guys, I appreciate. Mama Cameron is doing great. The road recovery is long, but she appreciates all the support she's getting.
Best of luck to Mama Cameron out there. All right, we're going to move on. We are going to get into our newsreel here in just a bit. And, well, we've got a Pride Fighting Championship episode coming up right now.
It's my fanboy episode, Drew.
Look at you.
It's my fanboy episode.
Giddy's a schoolgirl.
We've been doing the random where we're picking 5 random names, and I've been really enjoying that. I enjoy being tested. I was one of those kids who always thought that Pride FC might have been better than the UFC back in the day. And this week, Drew, on Cage Nation TV, we're pulling 5 former Pride FC champions, and we're ranking them in order on the fly. We have no idea. We haven't even drawn the numbers yet. We have no idea who's going to be involved. 5 random names are pulled. We're going to rank them. And then we're also going to have the hot topic, which was suggested to us on Facebook by referee extraordinaire Bill Bookwalter.
Oh, Bill, my Primanti brother's brother.
Bill suggested guys not fighting each other, which I think was a big deal this week in MMA news. Talks about John Jones, Anderson Silva not fighting guys in their camp. So I think that today is just a really appropriate time to talk about guys who are not willing to fight each other. We got all that and more right here on Cage Nation TV.
Stick around.
It's time for another edition of Cage Nation TV Newsreel, spanning the globe to bring you the latest news in MMA.
First it was the Shamrock brothers, then the Hughes brothers, then the Diaz brothers, and now it's the Pettis brothers. Sergio the Phenom Pettis, RFA veteran and brother to UFC lightweight champion Anthony Pettis, has signed with the largest MMA promoter in the world, the Ultimate Fighting Championship. The younger Pettis brother has been sharpening his skills and career as the Resurrection Fighting Alliance's flyweight champion and has been signed by the UFC on the heels of a submission win over James Porter. Sergio's first scheduled fight is against Vaughn Lee in a bantamweight bout at UFC 167 on November 16th. Still no word when the RFA will strip Pettis of the championship and crown a new flyweight title holder. Well, MMA is getting into a New York state of mind. It's hard to imagine that mixed martial arts is banned anywhere in the United States, especially with as much progress as the sanctioning athletic commissions are making in regulations. The U.S. District Court ruled recently that New York's ban on professional MMA is indeed unconstitutional and has now opened up avenues for citizens of the state and country to proceed with lawsuits to overturn the ban. The District Court's ruling does not overturn the ban itself, but is a very crucial step in the ban being abolished. As MMA fans, we could be seeing super fights at Madison Square Garden in no time. Urijah Hall versus Chris the Crippler Leben is essentially a loser leaves town fight. We're all painfully aware of the UFC's 2 losses and you're done policy. For those of you who aren't, it's pretty self-explanatory. At UFC 168, it could be an old-fashioned loser leaves town fight between Ultimate Fighter alums Urijah Hall and Chris the Crippler Leben. Leben, who has fought for the UFC since 2005 exclusively, has 3 consecutive losses to Mark Munoz, Derek Brunson, and Andrew Craig. Urijah Hall, which was a favorite to win this season of The Ultimate Fighter, has back-to-back losses to Kevin Gastelum and John Howard. While both fighters are fan favorites and have racked up impressive knockout finishes, Uncle Dana's patience for a fighter who isn't performing only goes so far. And it's been a big September for local MMA fighter Paul the Lionheart Riggleman. Altoona, Pennsylvania is quickly becoming known as a fight town, and not just somewhere that likes trains and baseball. In the weeks leading to Complete Devastation MMA 9 on November 16th, Altoona fighter Paul the Lionheart Riggleman is looking to meet opponent Rick Shawley full steam ahead. Riggleman has changed fighting camps, aligning himself with Altoona powerhouse Dignan-Brumbaugh MMA, which has produced such champions as Charlie Gathers, Lenny Karlheim, and CD MMA 9 main eventer Brett Showtime Schoenfeld. In addition to training with Dignan-Brumbaugh, Riggleman has been working with Team AMS out of Pittsburgh with the likes of trainer Jason the Whip Willett. Riggleman is rounding out his support team with a brand new sponsorship with Fractured City Gear, who has been sponsoring the who's who of Allegheny MMA. This is big news, as Riggleman has not fought since January at Valley Fight League 41, had to cancel his fight at World Cage Fighting Championship 6, and was embroiled in the controversy of VFL 42 at the Jaffa Mosque. Complete Devastation 9 will be held November 16th at the Jaffa Mosque.
This has been another edition of the Cage Nation TV Newsreel. Stay tuned to Cage Nation TV on Facebook for the latest in MMA news.
Since the dawn of furniture, there has been only one way to keep an infant from rolling off a couch or chair, and that is unsafely cramming cushions against the piece of furniture and hoping the baby doesn't work him or herself under them. Until now. Introducing the Zoster. The Zoster is a revolutionary infant safety product that easily wraps around a cushion to keep your baby from rolling off a couch or chair. The Zoster is made with a fleece material complete with a waterproof underneath to keep various liquids away from your upholstery. The Zoster is currently available in solid colors and pattern designs. You can order the Zoster online today at thezoster.com.
Welcome back to Cage Nation TV. Drew Shannon, Albert Cameron.
Your elected official in the flesh and easily one of the most identifiable voices in all of regional MMA here in the Keystone State.
I was hoping for radio, but
Well, yeah, that too.
You know,
yeah, I mean, 105.9 quick,
there.
105.9 quick rep. They're awesome.
look at that. Right. Thank you, buddy.
You're welcome.
Right now, we're going to get into the random, which is our weekly segment. What we do is we take 5 fighters. You rank them from 5 to 1, and in no particular order. These have been chosen at random. So Albert is going to take these fighters as I read them off, tell you a little bit about them, and then he's going to rank them. This week we're doing fighters from Pride FC. It is the Pride FC Champions episode.
Not just fighters, champions.
Champions.
Anyone could fight in Pride FC. They were great about
I couldn't.
welcome all. Well, but they were great about welcoming all comers. I mean, Eric Butterbean Esch Butterbean.
Butterbean.
Fought in Pride. Rulon Gardner, Olympic gold medalist. Hidehiko Yoshida, Olympic gold medalist for Japan in judo.
It's easy for you to say.
But Pride was really like this culmination. I mean, and to me, Pride was always the best of the best. And I think we talked about it before, like what Pride could have done differently, but they didn't. So now Uncle Dana owns all the Pride stuff, but hey, you know what? We can always reminisce. We can always walk down memory lane.
Memory.
And that's what we're doing right now.
Like the corners of my mind. I'm gonna shut up now.
All right,
It's
Drew.
time for random.
Let's hear the names, Drew. Who do we got?
All right, we're gonna start off with Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira.
Ooh, Big Nog. There was Big Nog and then there was Little Nog. There was Antonio Rodrigo and there was Antonio Rogerio.
Was there an eggnog?
There was there was a half Nog, but Big Nog.
Was it Afnog?
It was a story I remember from.
You have much to teach me, my friend.
I do. There was a story a long time ago where with the Homeland Security stuff, a lot of the Latin names ended up having to come with like family names from like a mother's side. Okay. And there was an MMA fighter who won, whose the last name ended up becoming Nogueira, was part of it, and someone called him Half Nog, and that just always kind of stuck in here for a reason. But the first name drawn was Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira, Big Nog Minotauro, former Pride UFC heavyweight champion. For the folks who aren't really versed with Japanese MMA, Big Nog came over to the UFC and Frank Mir absolutely destroyed all the ligaments in his arm. Completely decimated him. And Big Nog really didn't want to tap. I mean, but when your arm's like kind of hanging there with like no resistance to, I don't know, move, it becomes kind of difficult to fight back. But Big Nog, again, a very, very legendary name in the sport. I'm really glad to have him on the countdown.
All right, Fedor Emelianenko.
The last emperor. We talked about there are two sides. There's two sides of the greatest of all time coin. There are some people who believe it's Anderson Silva. There are some people who believe who it is Fedor Emelianenko. I believe it's Fedor Emelianenko. Pride champion. He has fought the best of the best, and he has completely decimated him. One of the, I think, tragic things that came out of the Pride shutting down was that Fedor never fought in the UFC. He fought in Strikeforce, and that's where he kind of his career started to wane. I think, had Fedor been in the Ultimate Fighting Championships, I think we'd still be talking about main event Super Bowl fights to this day.
All right, Mark Coleman.
The Hammer. Mark the Hammer Coleman. We've talked to Dan Severn before. Mm-hmm. We've certainly talked to Don the Predator Fry.
Right.
They were a part of this elite class of wrestlers who came into the UFC and said, hey, you know what, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is great, but we believe good old-fashioned catch-as-catch-can wrestling it's where it's at. UFC is probably 4 to maybe 10. Mark Coleman was in there with that group of wrestlers. I mean, Mark Coleman was ushering in wrestlers before Randy Couture really made a big splash on the scene. Mark Coleman, I believe, was an open weight tournament winner. And I mean, the nice thing about open weight tournaments in Japan does not have state athletic commissions like we do here in the United States. So it was not really that big of a deal for guys over in Pride to be in the welterweight, lightweight, middleweight, light heavyweight classes, fighting in one tournament. Mm-hmm. It didn't matter. In Pride, if there was a weight differential, there was the lighter guy had the choice whether or not he'd allow kicks on the ground. Okay. So there was a little bit of evening it up, but there's no athletic commissions in Japan like we have here. So these open weight tournaments were fantastic. And Mark the Hammer Coleman is one of those legendary names who went over to Pride and really showed them what's up.
All right. Did we mention Dan Henderson?
We did not mention Dan Henderson.
We did not mention him. Okay.
Dan Henderson, Hollywood Dan Henderson. Dan Henderson's really famous for a technique known as the H-bomb, and the H-bomb is his right hand. He is known to just floor guys with that punch. And Dan Henderson was a dual champion at a time where we did not have dual champions. He was middleweight and welterweight champion at the same time. He just was. He went over to Pride. He won a couple tournaments simultaneously. So Dan Henderson was the multi-weight class title holder that we've always wanted here in the United States, but we never got. Japan had that over in Pride with Dan Henderson.
All right, and the list is upside down now, so I can't read it properly. Yes. Well, let's turn it right side up, shall we? And let's see. Okay, we have Antonio. Yep. Nogueira. Dan Henderson, yep. Fedor Emelianenko, Mark Coleman. That leaves us with Takanori Gomi.
The Fireball Kid, Takanori Gomi. We think about guys who fight here in the United States, and we think about guys who have been all over the North American promotions. We think about guys like Daniel Cormier, who's fought for King of the Cage, who's fought for Strikeforce, and is now in the UFC. Guys like Nate the Rock Corey, who's done King of the Cage in the UFC. These journeymen. Well, over in Japan, that is exactly what Takanori Gomi did. He was a champion in the Shooto organization. I can't remember off the top of my head which weight class he was champion of, but he was taking names over in Shooto, and then the Pride money started calling, so Takanori Gomi comes over to there. One of the first Takanori Gomi fight that I've ever seen. Sorry about my backwoods Pennsylvania dialect
What's
there.
wrong with you?
It's all that Houtzdale.
Driving me to drink now.
The first fight I see Takanori Gomi in, he's fighting Half Gracie. Half Gracie was a big name in the extreme fighting promotion, as like UFC had Hoist, Pride had Hickson, extreme fighting had Half. Half Gracie takes on Takanori Gomi. He looks like he's going to eat Gomi for lunch. Gomi feeds him a knee and knocks him out cold. It was a fantastic fight. So of the 5 names we got, Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira, Dan Henderson, Fedor Emelianenko, Takanori Gomi, and Mark Coleman. Yeah. I think we got 5, and we're going to rank them. So,
all right, get to ranking, my friend. Who you got is, we're going to start with number 5, work our way to number 1?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go number 5.
Number 5 is going to be real tough for me. I'm going to go with Mark Coleman.
Okay.
Mark Coleman, again, a tournament openweight champion, but he wasn't a brass ring winner in Pride. So he fought Fedor Emelianenko. Emelianenko hit him in the head until his face was practically hamburger. That happened over here in the Pride came to the United States for an event called I think it was Pride 33 Second Coming. They actually came to Vegas, and Mark Coleman got completely lit up in his home country, which he was a contender at heavyweight Pride, but he wasn't championship material. So the openweight tournament championship that he had was, again, a big deal, but not as big of a deal as the brass ring for the Pride Heavyweight Championship. So I got Mark Coleman on that one.
All right, number 4.
Takanori Gomi.
Okay. Reasoning.
Gomi was good, but Gomi isn't transplant good. Henderson came over from Pride to start taking names. Fedor Emelianenko is the greatest of all time. Nogueira, easily one of the best guys in Jiu-Jitsu, period. While Gomi was good, it's that transplant thing that's sticking with me. He didn't come over to the UFC, and he didn't make as big a splash as he did in Pride, and I think that's what's kind of holding him back in my mind, and that might be a little unfair to Gomi to kind of hold that over him, but it's just sticking in there. He's good, but I don't think he's top 3 good. I mean, is he still one of the top lightweights in the world? Yeah, I mean, to hold the Shooto Championship, absolutely, and the Pride Lightweight Championship, but he just hasn't done anything in the last 10 years that make me think he's top 3.
Okay. Apologize that I'm drinking on air, but my throat is a little bit messed up this week, so I apologize for that. What are your top 3? Let's start with number 3.
Okay. So let's talk about who we have left. We have Fedor, we have Minotauro, and we've got Dan Henderson. I'm going to go with Minotauro. Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira.
Okay.
He was, again, one of the only 2 Pride heavyweight champions, but he didn't do like the multi weight class title holding that Henderson did.
Right.
He comes over to the United States. Frank Mir destroys this mix up for him. Frank Mir when Frank Mir did that, Frank Mir wasn't doing anything great. And we always say these things, these rankings are pound for pound and in their prime. And in their prime, and Nogueira was a top dog, but he didn't do the multi-weight class championship like Henderson did, and he certainly not the greatest of all time like Fedor is. Number 3, Minotauro.
Number 2.
Henderson.
Henderson, number 2.
Henderson's number 2, because
Okay.
he did it all. I mean, I don't know if you remember this, or our buddy Rick, who is now a DJ over at WGTY in Gettysburg.
Yes.
Yes.
Rick Kennis.
Rick Kennis, the former Ricky Lee Houston.
No, there was no Lee.
You sure?
I am positive.
I distinctly remember there being a Ricky Lee in his name.
There was Ricky Lee, and then there's Rick Houston.
Oh.
There is no Ricky Lee Houston.
Are you sure?
Sorry, Rick.
Okay. Anyway, so we're over it.
We have to tag him, by the way, on this episode.
We totally have
his
to.
Facebook, just so he knows we're thinking about him.
Absolutely. He's a good friend of ours.
Very good friend of ours.
So we go over to Rick's for like a housewarming thing, and Dan Henderson it's a unification fight for...
Dan Henderson is in his living room. That's
right. Dan Henderson's in his living room. It's a unification fight between the Pride title and the UFC title, and I think that just was the moment where Dan Henderson came over to the United States and he did really, really good things. So we have coupled with Dan Henderson was a multi-weight class champion. He's got the H-bomb. And he's coming over to the UFC and he's being very successful. Not just UFC, but also Strikeforce. So, like, he's got North America and Asia by storm. I think that's what puts Dan Henderson solidly at number 2.
When was that?
This was years ago, like 2007. His Pride was bought out.
Was I drinking that night?
You might have been.
Because I don't remember that night at all.
There was a Penn State game on. We were flipping between the UFC, because UFC was on Spike TV, and that was the big deal. There was a UFC fight on. And then there was a Penn State game.
I remember going to Ricky's for Penn State.
Ricky Lee.
No,
Ricky Lee Houston.
Moving on. So number 1 would be
Fedor Emelianenko, the last emperor. And again, there are two sides of that greatest of all time coin. There's Anderson Silva camp. There's the Fedor camp. I, being a serious Pride fanboy, and there's actually a more vulgar name for guys like me, but the line producer, we're gonna keep it PC.
Yes.
Yeah.
The producer's 11.
Yeah. So there's the Fedor camp. I am firmly planted in the Fedor camp. I think this guy has just been tested all over the place. He's beaten the who's who, and had he not had a problem with the UFC's 63-page contract, I think he would have been UFC heavyweight champion. So number 1, hands down, no questions asked. There's no argument. Fedor Emelianenko completely ruled the Pride Kingdom.
The last emperor.
Well, you know, it's kind of fitting because he was indeed the last heavyweight champion that Pride ever had. Foreshadowing. Yes.
All right.
All right.
There you go. That is our random for this week. Join us next week for another random, which, well, we don't know the topic as of yet.
But it'll be fun.
And it'll be random. All right, coming up in our next segment, ACAM's favorite... ACAM?
Well, it's like PMAC. Like, I'm totally jealous of PMAX.
No.
I'm totally ACAM.
ACAM?
ACAM. We're gonna do this rapid fire kind of transition. 5 of my favorite knockouts, back to back to back. It's gonna be fun. And then after that, we're gonna get into the hot topic.
All right, that'll be next on Cage Nation TV. ACAM?
ACAM.
Hello, MMA fans.
Look, people.
MMA fans.
And we're wrestling guys on an MMA show.
Holy moly. What's this world coming to? We want to take this time and thank Drew Shannon and Albert Cameron.
We do?
Yeah.
All right,
For
thank you.
allowing us a little bit of their time here on Cage Nation Television. To promote the Pro Wrestling Rundown. Do I have to do all the talking here?
Come on, guys, show us a little bit of love. We're showing you some love. We know that they're crossover fans, so catch us on our YouTube channel. What is it again, X?
YouTube.com/Pro Wrestling Rundown.
Hope to see you there.
All right. ACAM.
Yeah, I like that. Let's go with that. Let's
not go with that.
We're gonna go with that.
What are you, a rapper?
Yes. Every holiday season. Rap stuff. Anyway,
Moving on.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Cage Nation TV. Again, thank you for support for the Pink Out episodes. These tires sharp. We're showing our solidarity. Cancer still sucks. And, you know, with the right kind of support, we can knock it out. We can leave it black and blue.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. You just think of that on the fly?
I totally just thought of that on the fly. You're impressed.
Trained you well, young Skywalker.
Absolutely. So, we take to Facebook the other day and we said, hey, you know, we're always willing to hear your suggestions for topics and stuff. Billy Bookwalter, referee extraordinaire. He's been on Bellator, Gladiators of the Cage. If there's a promotion in the East Coast, he's done it. We're happy to know him. He says, guys.
Don't let Chip Snyder hear you say that he's referee extraordinary.
Oh, no, Chip Snyder's a referee extraordinaire, too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, just...
Yeah, and yeah. Quit making it awkward, Drew.
Sorry.
So Bill says, what about the topic of guys who refuse to fight each other? And I think that is an excellent topic considering the news of, was George St. Pierre going to fight so-and-so, John Jones, Anderson Silva? I think it'd be a good opportunity for us to say our piece on it, and then we never have to bring it up again.
All right.
Yeah.
Works for me.
Okay.
All right.
So in the history of mixed martial arts as we know it, the month of November, the UFC is actually going to be celebrating 20 years. of being a promotion, which I think is fantastic. That is a great milestone.
Yes, and it makes me feel old.
You remember November 1993? It was all over the news.
I barely remember.
You know, human cockfighting, bare knuckle, like, you know, just blood sport, cage fighting.
1993 was a bad year for Drew. Let's just leave that alone. But yes.
Okay, so in the history of mixed martial arts, there's always been guys who've trained out of camps who refuse to fight each other. I think the first instance that I can remember was Oleg Taktarov, who did some training with the Lion's Den, was going to end up meeting with Ken Shamrock in one of the early single-digit UFCs. And he's like, Ken, I can't fight you because we train together. Ken says, absolutely not. You get in there and you get ready to defend yourself because I'm coming swinging. Mm. So I think guys not wanting to fight friends, teammates, whatever the case may be, I think it's always kind of there. But, you know, I understand the apprehension, but I also understand that in order to be in the pecking order, in order to be considered a contender, you got to take everyone out who comes to challenge you.
Right.
So you and I are both in an open weight tournament. We both want the brass ring. If I got to take you out, I got to take you out.
Right, and vice versa.
Right. I mean, you got to hit Albert Cameron in the head.
I'm not going to be happy about it, but
no, we're not going to be happy. But we understand.
What you got to do.
But we understand there's a sport integrity.
Right.
Right. That's just my take on it. I don't know what it's like to fight for a couple $100,000 or $1 million, whatever the case may be.
Right.
I don't know if there's other motivating factors going into will a guy fight a guy or not. I mean, the guys at Jackson's camp, you know, they're a very tight-knit group. Those guys are so good, though, that, I mean, they're all going to eventually be contenders. There's only, heavyweight, light heavyweight, middleweight, welterweight, lightweight, bantamweight, strawweight, featherweight, less than 10 weight classes.
Right.
So of all the millions of people in the United States, I mean, the hundreds that are training out of Jackson's, out of 10 weight classes, you're eventually going to come across each other. I mean, you got to understand, make a decision what's more important, not hitting your friend in the face or taking the next step of level of getting into title contendership or possibly getting those kind of sponsors wherever the next level can hold.
Right. It's like all things in life, you know. You want to reach for the brass ring. You want to reach for the, you know, for the top spot in the game. Like, you work for a corporation. You have coworkers. You have friends that no doubt you work with, and you guys are competing for the same, you know, the same thing. Maybe a promotion or something like that. It's the same in the sport of MMA. You know, sometimes friends gotta,
yeah.
Right. Sometimes friends gotta fight friends. That's all there is to it.
I mean, it's happened whenever George St. Pierre was going to fight Matt the Terracera. Both these guys had ties to Renzo Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, which Renzo Gracie also has ties to State College through Central PA Mixed Martial Arts,
right.
Which is awesome for our area, the fact that Renzo Gracie has ties. But, you know, who's more affiliated with Renzo Gracie, Matt Serra or George St. Pierre? I think it would be Matt Serra, and I heard that Renzo Gracie was upset with George St. Pierre for some of the things he said as it come to that fight. But that wasn't really fighting. That was just kind of like a loose association of teammates. Mm-hmm. Guys at the Lion's Den wouldn't fight each other. I mean, we've even kind of experienced it kind of locally here.
Right.
And I think you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
There have been calls for Brad Mountain and Brett Showtime Schoenfeld to fight all the time. Now, it hasn't happened. And I can't imagine that Jason Dignan or Brian Brumbaugh are going to be, like, you know, encouraging that, because iron sharpens iron. I mean, when Schoenfeld's training at Dignan-Brumbaugh, I can't imagine that Brad Mountain's not an integral part of his training and sparring and doing what he do to make him better. The same thing with Schoenfeld on Brad Mountain's training side. I can't imagine them not sharpening each other, and there might be some personal dislike, but hey, who doesn't have personal dislike? I mean, in the work world, you could hate everybody in the next couple cubicles over, but you're still working towards a common goal. And
right.
That's the goal of the gym. I mean, there's trainers like Jason Dignan and Byron Brumbaugh who are training dangerous men to become even more dangerous. So, like, you know, and they all kind of need to come together for that cohesiveness. So, I mean, friends not fighting friends. Well, I haven't heard that Brett and Brad are friends, but, you know, like, they haven't fought each other, and I can't imagine they'd be a good fight to see. I imagine it'd be really hard for a lot of folks to try and watch.
Right. That's understandable too.
Absolutely. So, I mean,
but we do know that there are quite a few fans out there that would love to see that fight happen.
Oh, sure.
Will it happen? God only knows, and he sure as hell ain't talking. So, but.
That was good.
You never know, and the sport of MMA is just as unpredictable as anything.
Well, Brad's a 55.
As a roundhouse kick to the face, knocking you out if you're a veteran.
Yeah. Well, you know, like the Karate Kid kick that Lyoto Machida knocked out Randy Couture with. Like, you know, who would have ever seen something that Ralph Macchio did ever laying out the natural Randy Couture?
I was actually thinking more of George Shepard, but okay.
Well, that's neither here nor there. Gentlemen, welcome. Killing me, Smalls. Killing me.
All right.